In this video, we are going to have a look at the Lumix S Pro 16-35 f4 lens. I'm going to share with you my test results and also some of the photos I shot using this lens. Kia ora, good morning everyone, Richard Wong here. Today we are going to have a look at the new Panasonic Lumix S Pro 16-35 f4 lens. This is the first full-frame wide-angle zoom lens from Panasonic, and I know that a lot of people have been waiting for this lens, especially landscape photographers and other people that need the wide angle to complete their camera setup. Let's have a look at the design and also the build quality of this lens first. The build quality of this lens is very similar to the Lumix S Pro 24-70 f2.8 lens. The overall build quality, the finish, the coating it uses, and also the style of the lens is really similar to the 24-70. At the top of the lens, we have the focus ring here. You can also pull it back. It has the clutch design, so you can now turn it into a manual focus ring. And just like the other S Pro lenses, if you set it to a particular distance when you are in the manual focus mode, and then when you move it back to autofocus mode, and if you focus to some other distance object, and as soon as you put it back into the manual focus mode, it will snap back to the previous focus distance that you have set when you were in manual focus mode. This feature is definitely very useful if you have a particular focus distance that you want to be able to quickly change it back to, because you can just quickly pull it back to manual focus mode, then you can get back to that particular focus distance. Below the focus ring, you will find the zoom ring, which is pretty much at the center of the lens. The travel distance is about 90 degrees from the wide end to the telephoto end. When you change from 35mm focal length to 16mm focal length, the front element would extend a little bit. Probably because this is a wide angle lens, and also all the Lumix S body has excellent in-body image stabilizer. So this lens does not have any optical image stabilizer, and also there is no switches or any buttons on the lens body as well. And maybe because of that, the size and the weight of this lens is actually less than what I expected. I remember when I took it out from the box, my first impression was that, oh, it is actually quite small and quite compact, because I was actually expecting a slightly bigger lens. I put it side by side with my Nikon 16-35 f4 VR lens. That lens has optical image stabilizer, but compare the size of that lens and this one, this is noticeably a lot smaller. So while it's still not the smallest wide-angle zoom lens in the market, I don't think anyone will be complaining about the size or weight of this lens. This is a weather sealed lens, and I have already tested the weather seal feature, because last weekend I went out with this camera setup. I want to take some landscape photo using this lens on the S1 out. So I drove for about an hour, and by the time I reached my destination, it started pouring down. I waited a little bit, the rain slowed down a little bit, but it still keep raining. So I thought, okay, well, this is a weather seal lens and the body is also weather sealed, so let's go out and take some photo anyway. So I was shooting under the rain for pretty much half an hour or so. So it was raining, stopped a little bit, and then rain again. So for that half an hour, the camera and also the lens was completely soaked. I have to keep wiping off the water spot from the front element. Yeah, so it was completely wet for half an hour and absolutely no problem at all. The camera and the lens, they both worked flawlessly after that 30 minutes outdoor really wet shooting. And if you have watched some of my previous video, you probably know that this is not the first time that I have been using the Lumix S system under rain, some really heavy rain, and every single time the camera and whatever lens I put on, they both work perfectly. I have absolutely zero issue at all. So I definitely have very good confidence about the reliability and also the weather seal on all the Lumix S body and the lenses as well. The lens has a 77mm front filter thread, which is the same filter size with pretty much all the Lumix S lenses that they have released so far, and I'm pretty sure this is not a coincidence. It's one of those little things that you probably wouldn't notice until you actually go out and take some photo with the camera and a couple of lenses. Then you appreciate the effort that guys from Panasonic they have put into when they designing this whole camera system. The autofocus performance of this lens is pretty good. When I'm taking photo using single focus, the autofocus speed is lightning fast and also the operation is virtually silent. When I switch to continuous autofocus mode, the autofocus performance is also pretty nice. There is not much hunting at all. But having said that, because this is a wide angle lens, I really don't expect anyone to be using this lens to shoot sports or any really fast moving object anyway. While Panasonic doesn't use the Leica branding on their full frame lenses, all the S Pro lenses are certified by Leica, and this one is no exception. You can actually see this certified by Leica right here at the bottom of the lens, and you can also see that on the boxes and some of the menu as well. So the picture quality of this lens should be very good. Let's have a look at the image quality using some of the sample photo I shot in real life. Okay, let's look at the image sharpness first. At 16mm, if we look at the center, at the maximum aperture f4, the sharpness is already excellent even when I test it on the 47MP S1R. When I stop down from f4, the center sharpness, there's virtually no improvement because at the maximum aperture, the center sharpness is already very good. If we look at the edge sharpness at 16mm, at the maximum aperture f4, I would say the sharpness is decent, but I do notice that if I stop down to f5.6, the sharpness would increase a little bit. And now let's change the focal length to 35mm and look at the center sharpness. And once again, at f4, the center sharpness is already excellent. So stop down also wouldn't actually give you any improvement in the image sharpness. And now if we look at the edges, at f4, I would say the sharpness is decent. But once again, you could get a little bit more sharpness if you stop down to f5.6. So overall, I would say even when I test it with the 47MP S1R, I am perfectly happy with the image sharpness even if I have to shoot at f4 when I'm taking landscape photos. In terms of distortion, I noticed that when I'm shooting at the 16mm focal length, at the very edge of the frame, I can see there is a tiny bit of distortion. But as I change the focal length from 16mm to 35mm, the amount of distortion will be getting smaller and smaller. And by the time I reach about 30mm or so, there is virtually no distortion at all. Chromatic aberration is very well controlled. I have took many photos, very high contrast scene. I purposely put the sun behind a building or tree, and also shot a lot of photo from 16mm all the way to 35mm. And when I check the photos that I shot, pretty much all the photos I see virtually no color fringing at all. So that is definitely very impressive. Lens flare, I think it is also very well controlled. I've shot a lot of photos where the sun is right inside the frame, whether in the center or at the edges. Even the worst photo, I would only see very minimal amount of lens flare. And even when I did the nighttime bright light source test, which normally a lot of lenses you will see a lot of ghosting, with this Lumix S Pro 1635 lens, the amount of ghosting is kept at very minimum level. If you like to have some sunstar in your landscape photo, you do have to stop down to around f11, then you start to see a bit of sunstar. And if you stop down all the way to f22, then you can see some beautiful sunstar in your photo. In terms of vignetting, if you are shooting at the maximum aperture, then you may see a bit of vignetting no matter you are shooting at the wide angle lens or the telephoto. And if you stop down to f5.6, then vignetting is virtually not visible anymore. If you look at the price of the lens, this Lumix S Pro 1635 is probably not the cheapest f4 wide-angle zoom lens in the market. And to be honest, I think it is probably one of the most expensive wide-angle f4 zoom lens in the market. But the image quality of this lens is probably one of the best wide-angle zoom lens that I have ever used. While I won't say the image quality is perfect, it does perform very well in every single area. With the release of this lens, Panasonic has now completed the basic lineup within the first year release of the Lumix S system. You have this wide-angle zoom lens, you have the standard zoom lens, you have the telephoto zoom lens, and you also have a fast f1.4 prime lens. Of course, their lens lineup is still far from complete, but for a lot of professional photographer or videographer, with the release of this wide-angle zoom lens now, allow them to have a complete setup from wide-angle all the way to telephoto end. And more importantly is that pretty much every single lens that they have released so far, especially all the S Pro lenses, the image quality are all exceptionally well. So that makes me really excited and looking forward to next year when they are releasing some more specialized lenses to fill the smaller gaps in their lens lineup. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in my next video.